They drug up all these people on the streets, bring them into these homes, and then they become voters, but they don't know they're voters. Let me read you out the most important pages. All right, this is page 2 of 20. Rustad presented evidence of 45 votes cast in the riding of Surrey Guildford in the 2024 election that fail even the most basic smell test in democracy. 21 mail in ballot votes were cast by residents of Argyle Lodge, a licensed addiction and substance abuse recovery facility. The licensed capacity of Argyle Lodge is 25 beds. Wait till you see the testimony, if you call that, or not the testimony, the affidavit from the people inside. Argyle Lodge is across the street from Guildford Park Secondary School, the nearest polling station located just 80 meters away. Some residents of Argyle Lodge deny requesting a mail in ballot or being aware that a provincial election was even taking place. A resident of Argyle Lodge said they were instructed how to complete their mail in ballot package by a third party. The manager of Argyle Lodge, listed in a Fraser Health inspection report, bears the same name as an individual who made a $1,400 donation to the BC NDP in 2023. One voter in Surrey Guildford voted twice using two slightly different names. 22 voters who cast ballots in Surrey Guildford did not reside in the riding and were not eligible to vote. Okay, let's get to this Argyle substance abuse home. A judge can compel testimony under the Public Inquiry Act, said Rustad. It is urgent that the individuals involved in the Argyle Lodge operation are identified and made to answer some obvious questions, such as who are the 21 individual residents of the lodge listed as voting by mail? Did these people all, in fact, independently choose to mail in their votes rather than crossing the street to vote secretly at the Guildford Park Secondary School polling station? Do the dates of birth and signatures on the enclosing mail-in voting envelopes match the names and signatures on the identity documents of the individuals who cast the votes? And I'm going to get to, it gets juicier from here. Where were the ballots physically mailed from and when? Yeah, and when exactly? Who placed the ballots in the mailbox? How many Surrey Guildford ballots were cast in polling stations across the province from Fort St. John to Port Renfrew pursuant to David Eby's 2019 Election Act amendments? Don't forget, David Eby is the one that came up with this new snazzy election act. Rustad said official opposition researchers continue to examine connections between the management of related licensed addiction and substance facilities and NDP donors and supporters. What a racket. He's talking about they need an independent inquiry. I've posted on Facebook the entire thing, but let's get to the problem here, the big problem, and what was said from people inside this home. I observed that 21 votes were cast from the residents of Argyle Lodge. Now, don't forget, guys, we're talking about the Surrey riding that on election night, the numbers showed, and it was presented that Conservative Party of BC won. And that is the riding of Hanvir Randawa. He was on the press conference today. But after the election, over the next few days or weeks, it was reversed to an NDP win. And everyone thought there's no way that could be possible based on the type of people that were voting in that area, based on the type of person that was the Conservative Party of BC candidate. I'll leave it at that. But a lot of people think something really stunk, especially with that riding. Well, the NDP only ended up winning by quote unquote 22 votes. But here in this substance abuse home, where you're going to see these people are incoherent, allegedly, 21 votes came from that house. The lodge serves adults diagnosed with mental illness and has a 25-bed capacity, and I'm going to show you a picture of it. Interestingly, according to the residents of this lodge, there are 21 or 22 individuals living in the facility, and all 21 individuals did cast their vote via mail-in ballots. As a part of the review into the votes cast by residents, a volunteer from my team met two individuals residing at the lodge. As the conversation proceeded, Blanked Out was shocked to know that as of October 19, 2024, these people were unaware that the provincial election was taking place, and they were further unaware that Guildford Park School was even an elections voting place. As confirmed by both blank residents of the lodge, they're protecting their names, are not restricted in their ability to leave or re-enter the facility, but they voted using mail-in ballots. However, as of October 19, 2024, they were not even aware what a mail-in ballot was or how it was obtained. Neither asked any staff member at the lodge to order mail-in ballots on their behalf, nor did they personally order the mail-in ballots. They were instructed by a staff member named blank at the lodge to mark a cross in a box on mail-in ballots as per the staff's preference. Further, they believe that most of the other residents at the lodge have also not requested a mail-in ballot or marked the ballots by themselves, as they were most likely also instructed to mark a box as per the staff's preference because, as per them, many of the other residents do not appear to be able to even articulate their preference or respond to basic conversation. They stated that they were rushed into making the ballot and that they do not know who they voted for. Further, they felt that they had no choice but to mark a cross in a box on a mail-in ballot as instructed to do so by a staff member at the lodge. They felt they would be mistreated by staff members at the lodge if they did not abide by their instructions to mark a cross in a box on the mail-in ballots. Another person, while assisting me in this review, attended the Argyle Lodge and spoke to a resident named blank, voter ID blank, 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 stated he or she did not vote in the recent provincial election. However, the voter participation list shows that blank has voted via mail-in ballot in this provincial election. The attached statutory declarations and written statements from the residents of the lodge and the individuals involved in the investigation outlines the details of the events pertinent to this contravention. Okay, so following are the sections of the Election Act that were potentially contravened. Section 256. No wonder they're taking this to court. The man who's writing this is where he, quote unquote, all of a sudden lost. S256 of the Election Act provides an individual or organization must not intimidate an individual for any of the following purposes: to persuade or compel an individual to vote or refrain from voting, to persuade or compel an individual to vote or refrain from voting for or against a particular candidate or a candidate for a particular political party, to punish an individual for having voted or refrained from voting as described in paragraph A or B. Section 2562 of the Election Act provides that an individual or organization must not, by abduction, duress, or fraudulent means, do any of the following: A. Impede, prevent, or otherwise interfere with an individual's right to vote. B. Compel, persuade, or otherwise cause an individual to vote or refrain from voting. C. Compel, persuade, or otherwise cause an individual to vote or refrain from voting for a particular candidate or for a candidate of a particular political party. S2561 or the alternative 2 were contravened by staff members at Argyle Lodge as residents were intimidated or in the alternative under duress to vote in the election or cause an individual to vote or vote for a particular candidate or political party as per the staff member's preference. This section applies to voters 109.01 A, who vote by using a mail-in voting package and who are unable to mark a ballot or request a mail-in voting package because of physical disability or difficulties with reading or writing, or 2, require the assistance of a translator to read the ballot and the instructions for voting. Okay, you guys can go through this. I put it on Twitter and Facebook, all the laws this breaks. Let's get to what this lady said happened in there. Lastly, some of the residents are not able to read or write the English language, so the Argyle Lodge staff members who cannot speak their language assisted the residents in translation when they were not able to make the translation. This is an offense. Talk about the offenses. Here we go. I blank, this person's a resident and do hereby solemnly affirm and state as follows that I'm a Canadian citizen. I reside at the Argyle Lodge. I'm not restricted from going outside the lodge. I am mobile and I go out and about as per my wish. I was approached by blank, who asked me questions about my voting in a recent provincial election in October 2024. I was shocked to learn that voting location was right in front of our lodge at Guildford Park Secondary School, Surrey, and I was not aware of it. He or she says they were not aware there was even an election. I did not ask the manager or any staff members at the lodge to order a mail in ballot on my behalf, nor did I order it myself. I was rushed into marking the ballot. I do not know who I voted for. I marked the ballot where they pointed it, and I was led to believe that I had no choice but to mark the ballot. Otherwise, I feared that I'd be kicked out of the house. The blank from the staff were standing right next to me when I marked the ballot. No one else was around at the time. Many of the other residents of the lodge are not in their senses as they talk to themselves and do not appear to know what they're doing as they are fidgety and unable to hold a basic conversation or express themselves. It is my personal experience and a shared sentiment among the residents of the lodge that if we do not do as the staff asks us, they do not treat us appropriately or with compassion. Resultantly, we do not question them. I am under no undue pressure or duress, and I confirm that I am executing this declaration as per my free will. And I make this solemn declaration, conscientiously believing it is to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as made under oath, declared before me at the city of Surrey in the province of BC. And here's another one, page 12. Number 14, many of the other residents, mentally upset at the lodge, are not in their senses as they talk to themselves and do not appear to know what they are doing as they are unable to articulate to the staff their daily needs. For these mentally upset residents who are unable to articulate their preferences, I do not believe they are capable of marking their own ballot. I believe the staff at the lodge either marked the ballots for them or instructed them to mark a box as per the staff's preference. It is my personal experience and a shared sentiment among the residents of the lodge that if we do not do as the staff asks us, they do not treat us appropriately or with compassion. Okay, it looks like this is multiple residents. Yeah, because they have repeated pages, but they've blanked out who it is. So I have no way of knowing that this is a different person, but I don't know why they'd have page after page after page of another declaration. So okay, it's a little bit different, this one. I'm going to read out the differences. Okay, here. This person opened the door and asked if they had voted in the provincial election held recently. Upon repeating the same question again, that person was standing in the staircase of the lodge, yelled that they did not vote. In response, I asked if I was asked, to which answered yes. Another person next to me stated that I had also not voted and walked away, so I was unable to get their name. Okay, so they're talking about other people that they had not voted. So basically, the reason why they're putting this in the court case is they know these people voted, but these people are saying they didn't vote. And here's another one. I observed that many of the residents at the lodge were unresponsive even to the simplest gestures during my interactions. Some displayed erratic movements, and despite my attempts to engage them in basic conversation or simple exchanges such as saying hello or bye, their responses were minimal, unclear, and incoherent. Given their limited ability to gauge even a basic conversation, it is evident that these residents are not capable of ordering a ballot for themselves. Furthermore, their inability to articulate or understand basic exchanges strongly suggests they are not in a position to request the staff to order a mail in ballot on their behalf or to provide informed consent for such an action. There's no way they can. I went on the internet to try to figure out, and I had to go through it and find the proper links, the proper places. That took me like 10 to 15 minutes online. You have to know the website to go to, take the time to figure out on the website how he mails in his ballot. This is not something that anyone can just quickly do. Number 5, the cognitive and communicative challenges faced by many of them further emphasize the possibility of undue influence or outright ballot manipulation. Their limited cognitive and communicative abilities suggest that their participation in the voting process may not have been genuinely autonomous. Residents. Upon discussing with them, it became evident that blank of them understood what a mail-in ballot is or the process of obtaining one. Despite the mobility and freedom to leave the lodge, blank were unaware of the voting location directly across the lodge.